Gasping for air, she rushed into the motorcycle club's workshop, her bag sliding down from her arm. The men inside had never met her before and couldn't have anticipated her message. The young girl's quiet revelation stopped everyone cold. There's someone trapped in the car's trunk. All motorcycle engines fell silent immediately. Her words weren't speculation. She tracked the vehicle all the way from the school grounds. The driver was a man the bikers had previously considered trustworthy. That particular afternoon had an unremarkable, drowsy feel, the type of day when nothing significant typically occurs. The Hells Riders Motorcycle Club's workspace carried the scent of lubricant and stale brew. Mechanics had elevated 3 motorcycles for maintenance. One member, named Torque, worked deeply within an engine, lubricant marking his arms. Hudson perched on seating near the entrance, focused on his mobile device. Alfie organized hardware into labeled containers, a mindless activity that brought calm after an exhausting week. Without warning, the young girl materialized. Her entrance wasn't gradual. She sprinted through the open entrance as though fleeing danger. Her footwear scraped across the floor. Her bag dangled from one arm, shifting with each unstable movement. She appeared no older than 11 or 12 years. Her complexion was crimson, her respiration labored. Every person present turned their attention toward her. Torque cleaned his hands using a cloth, responding automatically before thinking. Hudson rose to his feet instantly. Alfie stopped moving, still gripping fasteners between his digits. The young girl halted at the workshop center, breathing heavily. She examined them carefully, studying their expressions as if determining whether to place her faith in them or flee back outside. "Everything all right, young one?" Hudson inquired, maintaining a gentle, controlled voice. "Are you injured?" She indicated no with her head, though her expression suggested otherwise. Her eyes appeared glossy and enlarged, containing something resembling barely restrained fear. "Where are your parents?" Alfie questioned, approaching but maintaining distance. "Have you gotten lost?" Another negative gesture with her head. When she finally verbalized her concern, the statement barely escaped her mouth. "My friend is locked in the vehicle's trunk." The workspace became completely still. Even the audio equipment in the corner appeared to pause. "Repeat that statement," Torque demanded, advancing closer with a more intense tone. The young girl swallowed with difficulty. Her hands shook visibly. "Vanessa, my best friend. She's trapped in there. I witnessed someone put her inside. Please, time is critical." Hudson lowered himself to match her eye level, his demeanor composed yet concentrated. "We're paying attention. Describe what you observed." "A gray 4-door vehicle in poor condition," she explained, her words accelerating now. "It's missing a wheel cover on the passenger's front side. I spotted it at our school, then later at the nearby fueling station." Vanessa entered the front passenger area after classes ended, but when I saw the vehicle again, she had disappeared. I detected sound from the trunk area, like impact sounds, and the man operating the vehicle appeared suspicious, anxious, as though wanting to avoid attention. Torque straightened his posture, something troubling crossing his expression. "That vehicle sounds familiar to me." Everyone's attention shifted to him. It drove past our location perhaps 20 to 30 minutes earlier. Moving slowly, the operator kept his head lowered, wearing dark eyewear despite cloudy conditions. "I found it unusual, but I didn't." He interrupted himself. "That's irrelevant now. We know its direction." Hudson retrieved his mobile device, already making a call. "Alfie, remain here with the girl. Torque, Tim, Hound, accompany me. We'll divide up and monitor the primary exit routes. If that vehicle is still in motion, we'll locate it." Alfie positioned himself beside the young girl, his tone softer now. "What do people call you, sweetheart?" "Alice." "All right, Alice. Your actions were commendable, truly excellent in coming to us. We'll locate your friend, I promise. However, I need you to remain here beside me. Can you manage that?" She affirmed with a nod, though her hands continued trembling. The workshop underwent a transformation. What had been leisurely and unmemorable moments earlier became organized commotion. Motors thundered to life outside. Protective clothing was secured. Communication devices crackled with location information. For motorcycles departed the area with roaring exhausts and flying gravel, dispersing in various directions like an activated search pattern. Alfie obtained a portable chair and positioned it near the entrance. "Take a seat, Alice. Catch your breath. Would you like water?" She nodded once more, still too overwhelmed for extensive conversation. He retrieved the container from the small refrigerator, and she consumed it with unsteady swallows. "Tell me about Vanessa," Alfie requested gently. "She's your schoolmate, my closest friend," Alice said softly. "We've known each other since we were 5 years old." She was reluctant to enter that vehicle. I could sense it, but the man communicated something to her, and she simply complied. "Do you recognize the man?" Alice paused. "I believe he's her father. I've only encountered him a few times. He no longer resides with their family." Alfie felt his stomach sink. That information complicated the entire situation while simultaneously clarifying much. Before he could pose another inquiry, a vehicle screeched into the parking area. A woman exited hastily, leaving the door ajar with the engine operating. She rushed toward the workshop, panic evident in her entire demeanor. "Alice," she called out. "Alice, what's your location? I've been attempting to reach you." She stopped mid-statement upon observing the scene. Her daughter seated in a motorcycle club's workspace, surrounded by protective gear and machinery, gripping a water container desperately. "Mom," Alice stated quietly, "Vanessa has disappeared. Her father took her. She's confined in his vehicle's trunk." The woman's complexion became pale. Alfie stood, positioning himself between the mother and her panic. "Ma'am, your daughter just provided us with a description and direction. Half our membership is already searching. We'll find her, but I require you to remain composed and share everything you know." Alice's mother covered her mouth with both hands, struggling against tears. "Oh no, oh no. Kate needs to know, Kate," Alfie repeated. "Vanessa's mother. They reside 2 blocks from our home. I must contact her immediately. Get her here," Alfie stated firmly. "We'll require her presence as well." Alice's mother retrieved her mobile device with trembling hands and dialed. Alice remained seated, silent now, gazing toward the vacant road where the motorcycles had vanished. She'd completed what she could. Now waiting was all that remained. Kate appeared in less than 5 minutes. Her Honda entered the area at a velocity that scattered gravel. She nearly struck the curb. She didn't bother securing the door behind her, simply ran, a blur of panic and dread, directly into the workshop. "Where is she?" Kate's voice fractured on the words. "Where's my child?" Alice's mother intercepted her before she could fall. "They're searching." The motorcycle club members pursued the vehicle. Alice witnessed everything. Kate's eyes discovered Alice. The small girl's composure began cracking at the edges. "Tell me," Kate said, lowering herself to her knees before the chair. "Tell me what you observed, sweetheart." Alice's voice was diminished but steady. He collected her from school. The teachers permitted her to leave because they recognized him. But Vanessa appeared wrong. She was rigid. She wouldn't acknowledge me when I gestured. Then I spotted the vehicle again at the fueling station, and I heard her inside the trunk. Kate's hand flew to cover her mouth. A cry emerged, raw and visceral. Alfie intervened, his tone firm yet not harsh. "Ma'am, we require information quickly. Who abducted her?" "Brian," Kate managed to say. "Brian Turner, her father." Alfie's expression shifted, recognition appearing across his features. He glanced at Alice's mother, then back at Kate. "Turner, the individual who attended the community gatherings years ago, worked on motorcycles occasionally?" Kate nodded, wiping her eyes with her palm. "That's him, but he's transformed. He hasn't been that person for an extended period." "Explain to me," Alfie said, obtaining a stool. "What's the situation?" Kate drew a shaky breath, attempting to steady herself. "We've been separated for 8 months. It wasn't amicable. He struggled with accepting it. Lost his employment last year, laid off from the manufacturing facility. He attempted to recover, but instead declined, gambling, consuming alcohol, stopped appearing at commitments, stopped being present even during his time with Vanessa." "Where has he been residing?" "I'm uncertain. He departed in May. Rented accommodation somewhere, I believe. He'd appear unexpectedly sometimes, attempting to convince me to reconcile. Claimed he'd transform. Claimed he simply needed time. Her voice hardened. But time doesn't repair someone who refuses to acknowledge they're damaged. Alfie's expression became serious. Any legal protections in place? Restraining order pending, Kate stated bitterly. I filed 2 weeks ago. He discovered it last Monday. Appeared at our residence, shouting. Stated I was attempting to steal his daughter. Said if I continued pushing, I'd have regrets. She looked upward, tears flowing now. I believe he was making empty threats. I believed he'd calm down. Alice's mother pressed Kate's shoulder, but remained silent. There was nothing appropriate to say. Alfie retrieved his mobile device and composed a quick message to the crew. Brian Turner, separated father. Unstable, possible custody conflict. Proceed with caution. A response arrived almost immediately from Torque. Used to repair motorcycles with us on weekends. Good individual back then. Difficult to believe it's the same person. Alfie looked back at Kate. Do you believe he'd harm her? Kate hesitated, and that hesitation communicated more than any verbal response could. I don't believe he wants to harm her, but I'm uncertain what he's capable of anymore. When someone reaches that level of desperation, when they've lost everything, she trailed off, staring at the floor. He believes this will resolve things. That if he takes her, I'll have no option but to return. That we can become a family again. That's not how this functions, Alfie stated quietly. I understand that. Kate responded sharply, her grief turning bitter. But he doesn't. He's convinced himself of some fantasy where everything returns to normal if he simply holds on tightly enough. Alice shifted in her seating, her voice cutting through the tension. He appeared frightened. Everyone turned toward her. At the fueling station, Alice continued, her brow creasing as though replaying the scene mentally. When I observed him, he was looking around constantly, kept examining his mirrors. His hands were shaking when he purchased fuel. He didn't appear malicious. He appeared afraid. Kate closed her eyes, new tears breaking free. Alfie's radio crackled. Hudson's voice transmitted through, rough with interference. Possible sighting near Route 9. Gray sedan, missing will cover. Moving east toward the former industrial area. Alfie grabbed the radio. Understood. Maintain surveillance. Don't engage until we confirm the child's location. Acknowledged. Kate stood abruptly, wiping her face with both hands. I'm accompanying you. Ma'am, I'm accompanying you, she stated, her voice firm now. If you locate him, he's more likely to respond to me than to strangers on motorcycles. I understand how to communicate with him. I've been doing it for years. Alfie studied her momentarily, then nodded. All right, but you remain behind us. You don't approach until we confirm it's safe. Understood. Understood. Alice's mother stood as well, pulling Alice to her feet. We'll wait here. Keep our devices active. Alice looked upward at Kate, her eyes filled with something too mature for an 11-year-old to carry. You'll find her. I'm certain you will. Kate knelt down once more, pulling Alice into a tight embrace. Thank you, she whispered. You saved her life today. You understand that, correct? Alice nodded against her shoulder, but didn't verbalize anything. Alfie grabbed his jacket from a chair's back and motioned for Kate to follow. Let's proceed. As they headed toward his truck, Alfie's device buzzed again. Another message from Torque, located the trailer complex. Vehicle is here. We're maintaining position. Alfie's pulse accelerated. He glanced at Kate, whose face had become pale again. They've located him, he stated simply. Kate climbed into the passenger seat, hands gripping her knees so intensely her knuckles turned white. Let's retrieve your daughter. The trailer complex sat at a dirt road's terminus that most people had forgotten existed. Vegetation pushed through gravel cracks. Deteriorated chain link fencing drooped in places, supported more by momentum than structure. 3 trailers still remained, remnants from when this location used to provide seasonal housing for manufacturing workers. Now was simply abandoned property nobody wanted to purchase and nobody bothered to demolish. The gray sedan was positioned crookedly before the middle trailer, its missing wheel cover like a distinctive mark. Alfie's truck rolled to a stop 50 yards back. For motorcycles were already present, engines silent, riders positioned in a loose perimeter. Torque lifted his chin in acknowledgement as Alfie exited. Kate remained in the truck, hands flat against the dashboard, staring at the trailer like something she wasn't certain was real. Status? Alfie inquired, maintaining a low voice. Vehicle's been here at least 20 minutes. Torque explained. No movement observed. Window coverings are closed. Can't see interior. We detected voices approximately 10 minutes ago. Sounded like a male speaking, but couldn't distinguish words. Nothing since. Hudson crossed his arms, eyes fixed on the trailer entrance. We contacted authorities. Sheriff's department is en route, but they're 20 minutes out. Figured we'd wait for you before we did anything reckless. Good decision, Alfie said. He glanced back at the truck. Kate had opened the door and was stepping out, slow and deliberate, like each movement required effort. Kate, Alfie said. I'm going in, she stated flatly. Absolutely not. He's my husband. That's my daughter. Her voice didn't elevate, but the edge in it could have sliced glass. If you storm in there, he'll panic. If I go, there's a possibility he listens. Torque shook his head. Too dangerous. We don't know his mental state. I do, Kate said, meeting his gaze directly. He's desperate. He's frightened. And he believes this is his final option. But he's not violent. He never has been. There's a first occurrence for everything, Hudson muttered. Kate turned to Alfie. Please let me attempt this. Alfie looked at the trailer, then back at her. Every instinct told him this was an unwise idea, but he also understood desperation. He'd witnessed what it did to people, and sometimes the only way through it was someone who still remembered the person underneath. All right, he said finally, but I'm accompanying you. And if anything feels wrong, anything, you retreat and let us manage it. Kate nodded. They approached together, gravel crunching beneath their footwear. The air carried scents of dust and rust and something acidic. Old refuse, perhaps, or decay. Alfie stayed a half step behind Kate, close enough to react, but far enough to let her lead. She stopped at the entrance. Drew a breath. Knocked. Nothing. She knocked again. Brian, it's me. Open the entrance. Silence. Then faintly, the sound of movement inside. A floorboard creaking. A muffled voice. Leave, Kate. His voice sounded hollow, exhausted. I'm not leaving, she said, steadier now. Not until I see Vanessa. She's fine. Then prove it. Open the entrance. A long pause. Then the sound of a deadbolt sliding back. The entrance opened partially. Brian stood in the gap, backlit by the dim interior. He looked hollowed out, unshaven, hair disheveled. The shirt that used to fit now draped off his shoulders like borrowed garments. His eyes carried the type of exhaustion that doesn't originate from one troubled night. She's fine, Brian repeated, but his voice fractured on the words. I wasn't going to harm her. I needed time to think. You can find her in a trunk, Kate said, and for the first time, her voice shook. You terrified her. You terrified me. I didn't know what else to do. Brian's eyes were glossy now, brimming. You were going to take her from me. The restraining order, the custody filing. You were going to erase me, Kate. I'm her father. I have rights. You have responsibilities, Kate shot back. And you abandoned them. Brian recoiled, as if the words had physical weight. Alfie stepped forward slightly. Brian, I remember you. You used to assist at the workshop. Skilled with your hands. Showed up when people needed you. He kept his tone even, non-threatening. That individual is still in there somewhere. Don't let this be what defines you. Brian's gaze shifted to Alfie, then passed him to the other bikers standing in the distance. His shoulders sagged. I can't go to prison, he whispered. If I go to prison, I lose her permanently. His voice cracked like the sound of someone whose last thread just snapped. You're losing her right now, Kate said, her voice breaking. Every second you keep her in there, you're losing her. Please, Brian, let me see her. He stared at Kate for a long moment. Then slowly, he stepped back and opened the entrance wider. The trailer's interior was dim and stale. A card table with a half-empty liquor bottle, a sleeping bag in the corner, and on a sagging mattress against the far wall. Vanessa sat with her knees pulled to her chest, clutching a stuffed animal. Her eyes were wide and crimson from crying, but she was silent that Kate's breath caught. Vanessa, sweetheart. Vanessa didn't move. She just stared as though she wasn't certain if this was real. Kate walked toward her, slow and careful, hands open. It's okay. I'm here. You're safe now. Vanessa's face crumpled. She lunged forward into her mother's arms. The sound that escaped her wasn't crying. It was the release of hours of terror held in a small body. Kate held her tightly, rocking her, whispering things Alfie couldn't hear. Brian stood frozen by the entrance, watching them. His face was blank, but tears ran down his cheeks unchecked. Alfie stepped inside, positioning himself between Brian and the entrance. You need to come outside now. Je l'ai fait sans route. You cooperate, this goes easier. Brian nodded slowly. He didn't resist when Alfie guided him out. By the time the patrol vehicles arrived, Brian was sitting on the ground with his hands behind his back, Torque standing nearby. Vanessa was wrapped in a blanket in the back of Alfie's truck, still holding the stuffed animal, Kate beside her stroking her hair. The sheriff took Brian without incident. No restraints, no drama. Just a man who looked relieved it was over. Yes, they drove away. Vanessa finally spoke, her voice small and uncertain. Is Dad going to be okay? Kate closed her eyes, tears tracking down her cheeks. I don't know, sweetheart. I really don't know. The courtroom felt sterile beneath fluorescent illumination. Brian sat at the defense table in garments that didn't quite fit him anymore, hands folded in his lap, eyes on the floor. The charges were read aloud. Unlawful restraint of a minor, custodial interference, child endangerment. Kate testified, her voice carrying exhaustion and grief equally. He didn't want to harm her, she said, her voice steady but strained. He wanted to keep her, to freeze time, to return to when things made sense. She looked at Brian across the room. But you can't kidnap your way back into someone's life. The judge's words came measured and final. Brian would see Vanessa only under supervision. Therapy wasn't optional. Neither was rehabilitation, 60 days inpatient, then continued outpatient treatment. 18 months of probation to prove he could follow through. Brian accepted it all without protest. Nodded when the judge asked if he understood. Said, "Yes, Your Honor," in a voice that barely carried. When Hudson and Alfie appeared at the courthouse steps afterward, Brian looked at them as though he didn't understand why they were there. Do you have a place to stay after rehabilitation? Hudson asked. Brian shrugged. Motel, probably. Depends on what I can afford. You still know your way around an engine. Brian blinked. Yeah, what? We've got work if you want it, Alfie said. Oil changes, inventory, cleaning up the workshop. It's not glamorous, but it's steady. Brian stared at them, waiting for the punchline. You're serious? Dead serious, Hudson said. You show up sober. You show up on time. You do the work. We'll keep you on. But this isn't charity. You mess up, you're gone. Brian's throat worked. He looked away, blinking hard. I don't deserve this. You're right, Alfie said without softening it. But the individual we used to know did good work. If he's still in there, we'll find out. Brian nodded once, sharp and quick. Like he didn't trust himself to say more points. 60 days later, he walked into the Hell's Riders garage at 7 a.m. sharp, clean-shaven, eyes clear. Alfie handed him a cloth and pointed to a stack of oil filters. Get started. The first few weeks moved like walking on ice. Conversations stayed practical. Brian asked where things went, thanked people when they answered, and kept his distance otherwise. He arrived early, left exactly on time, and never gave anyone a reason to second-guess the decision. Vanessa, meanwhile, had stopped talking much. Her therapist explained that trauma wore different faces. For Vanessa, it wasn't nightmares, it was silence withdrawal. A child who used to chatter nonstop now spent her afternoons staring at walls, but she still drew. At first, it was just scribbles in the margins of her homework, then full pages, then entire sketchbooks. Kate bought her colored pencils, markers, watercolors, anything that kept her hands moving. Alice came over almost every day after school. She didn't push Vanessa to talk, just sat beside her, working on her own drawings, offering commentary when Vanessa showed her something. That's really good, Alice said one afternoon, looking at a sketch of a bird in flight. You should frame that. Vanessa's mouth curved upward. The first genuine smile in weeks. One Saturday, Alice showed up at the workshop with Vanessa in tow. Kate had given permission, though she looked uneasy about it. The girls walked in holding hands, and Torque did a double take. "Well, look who it is," he said, his gruff voice softening. "What brings you two around?" "We wanted to see if there was space for an art table," Alice said boldly. "Somewhere we could draw while you guys work on bikes." Hudson raised an eyebrow. "An art table in a biker garage. Why not?" Alice shot back. "You've got plenty of room." The guys exchanged glances. Then Alfie shrugged. "All right, corner by the tool bench. Don't touch anything sharp and stay out of the way when we're moving bikes." By the next weekend, they'd cleared out a corner and set up a folding table, 2 chairs, and a plastic bin full of art supplies donated by the Cruz families. Vanessa and Alice claimed it immediately, spreading out papers and pencils like they owned the place. Brian saw them one afternoon while hauling trash to the dumpster. He froze in the doorway, watching Vanessa laugh at something Alice said, a sound he hadn't heard in months. She didn't see him, and he didn't approach. Just stood there for a moment, then kept walking. Months passed. Brian never missed a shift, never showed up late, never smelled like alcohol. The tension eased bit by bit. The crew started including him in conversations, asking his opinion on repairs. He started to look less like a ghost. Kate brought Vanessa by for a supervised visit one evening. They sat outside on the picnic table of the club, used for lunch breaks. Brian brought her a soda from the vending machine. They didn't say much, just sat together quietly while the sun set behind the workshop. "You doing okay?" Brian asked eventually. Vanessa shrugged. "Therapy's weird, but I guess it's helping." "Good. That's good." He hesitated. "I am sorry, Vanessa, for everything. I know saying it doesn't fix anything, but I know, Dad," she said quietly. "Mom says you were sick. That people can get better if they work at it." Brian's eyes burned. "I'm working at it. I can tell." Father's Day arrived on a Sunday. The workshop was closed. Brian spent the morning at a recovery meeting, then went back to his small apartment and tried not to think about how empty it felt. Around noon, there was a knock. He opened the entrance to find Vanessa standing there, Kate behind her in the driveway. Vanessa held a small envelope, handmade, decorated with colored marker stars. "I made you something," she said. Brian took it with shaking hands. Inside was a card, folded construction paper. On the front, she'd drawn 2 stick figures holding hands. On the inside, in careful handwriting, "Happy Father's Day. Love, Vanessa." He stared at it for a long time. Then he knelt down and pulled her into an embrace, careful and tentative, like he was afraid she might break. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you." When he looked up, Kate's eyes were wet. She gave him a small nod. Not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement. A start. Brian kept that card on his refrigerator right next to his 30-day sober chip. Some mornings he stood there longer than necessary, coffee going cold in his hand, just looking at those 2 stick figures. Proof that some things, once broken, could still be glued back together. Not the same, but standing. Alice trusted her instincts when no one else would. Vanessa got her life back because a friend refused to stay silent. And Brian, he got something most people don't, a second chance earned one day at a time. Sometimes the most broken stories can still heal. Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, click that like button and subscribe to embrace the journey for more stories that remind us why courage and compassion still matter.